Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the EZFX Trading Room broadcast for Tuesday, September 13th, 2016. My name is Bradley Freed, and for the next 20 or 30 minutes, you'll be joining me for a review of our watch list from yesterday, and we're going to update the trades on that list and add any new trade opportunities that we've discovered between yesterday and today. If you have any questions and you're watching live, we have a chat room on this page. You can post your questions, and I will answer them live at the end of the broadcast. If you're watching the recording, feel free to use the community features of this website. You can find me on the members list. Go to community members, and my handle is EZFX. You can send me a private message, or you can join the trading room group from the community groups menu, and you can post a question or a comment or a chart or anything you want to the group, and myself or other members may comment or answer your question. Finally, you can always send me an email at ezfxsignal@gmail.com. All right, so let's go ahead and get started by reviewing the watch list from yesterday. We had a lot of trades that closed, a lot of winning trades, which was really nice to see. And then yesterday we sent a couple signals, and a couple of those already stopped out, unfortunately. Winning streaks don't always last. But I want to walk through those, and at least on one of those, we do, I think, have a retrade opportunity coming up. So I'll be looking for that. But let's just review where we were yesterday. We were watching the Aussie dollar buy, dollar peso sell, pound Aussie sell, Aussie Swiss buy, dollar CAD sell, euro Aussie sell, and New Zealand dollar buy. And we had the New Zealand dollar yen sell trade was open, and the euro pound buy trade was open. And those were both signal trades. So let's go ahead and jump over the charts, and let's see what happened with those trades and what happened between yesterday and today. Okay, so I guess the big thing we should talk about first is the signals. I sent out 3 signals. First was an Aussie dollar buy, and basically you got a trend line break here. And then on this big candle, I took that as a confirming candle and set up targets at the 61.8% Fibonacci retracement level and at the Class A supply zone that's the top of the trade space. This moved a little bit higher than it promptly started to drop. And it didn't stop out. We're minus right now. It looks like it's starting to climb again. If this could break out and start to trend again, we could be in the money and we could still get to where we want to go. This is a completely valid trade. The only thing we haven't seen yet is a color change in the triangular moving average, but if this continues to move sideways and consolidate, I expect to see that as well. We had a buy bubble, we had a trend line break, and we have a Class A divergent signal. And I could have even gotten into it earlier. I was just being a little bit gun shy because I don't want to start jumping into trades right after a winning week. That can be a self-destructive. You have a series of wins, you start to get overconfident, and then you start to take trades just over and over again, trying to keep up that momentum. And the market has different ideas. It's not going to cooperate with you wanting that to happen. So to avoid that, I was being careful. And at least so far, this trade is open, but it is out of the money. It's minus right now. So we're watching that. There's no early close signal. There's no reason to get out. This is just a period of time when before a trade takes off, it either stops out or it gets back into the money. And we just have to kind of suffer through that and let that happen and see where it takes us. So the Aussie dollar currently on our list is open. And that is a signal trade. Next, 2 other signal trades. The Aussie Swiss, also buy trade, same idea, trend line break. I waited for it to go quite a distance. We had a Class A zone. We had, I think, Class B divergence and a trend line break. So a three element combination. That's a valid entry signal. And it was moving in a pretty obvious way in a reversal pattern. And then it started to drop, and it did stop out and made a lower low. So this is trending down again. And we'll have to look for a new buy setup before we'll be willing to trade it again. What I did is I went ahead and redrew the trend lines I got rid of my old trend lines. And I drew this trend line across price on these wicks here. It made during the high, and on this previous high here. I think that's a reasonable line to use as a reference. If we get other confirming elements, right now all we have is a trend line. This divergence has already been invalidated because we got a lower low. So we need to see at least one other thing before we get in. Usually on retrades, if you read the course, I like to be more strict with a retrade than I was the initial trade. So I'll be looking for example, for this demand zone down here, and I think this is just a class B. It's already class A, but for it to hit this zone and maybe create a new divergence, which would give me a class A zone, and then maybe a new buy bubble, for example, and a trend line break. And then I would be willing to retrade it. But I try to be more careful and more strict about what I'm willing to accept as an entry confirmation when I'm retrading. So this stopped out. Aussie Swiss. And I'll be sure to put the pips on there. And this was a signal trade as well. So we'll go ahead and mark it accordingly. Let's see, next we had the other one that we sent out that stopped out was this pound Aussie. And this is kind of a frustrating one because it stopped out, but now it seems to be moving towards the target. But anyway, this was the same idea. We had a trend line break. We had a sell bubble. I had a pretty tight stop on this. So I think we only lost 50 pips when this stopped out. In fact, I think that's right. I think we lost 78 on the Aussie Swiss. And we lost 50 on the pound Aussie. And this did, it just hit its rose, it hit stop loss. It looked like it was going to trend again, and then it started to drop. So this is pretty volatile. It may rise again. I wouldn't trust it or get into it until I see a whole new setup. I want to see a class A supply zone. I want to see a new sell bubble. I want to see a whole lot of things before I'd be willing to take a retrade on this pair. So this is just a loss at this point. It's still on the watch list. It's still something I watch this. This may retrace up and give us a setup. These things seem to be really volatile right now. So I'm just going to keep an eye on it, and maybe it will give us a trade opportunity. See, the Aussie dollar, I think I talked about that already, but yeah, it's just out of the money, but it may get into the money again. So we're just holding on. If it does stop out, I have a new trend line here we can use in addition to other things we demand before we take a retrade, but I would try to retrade it if I could. All right. Moving on, let's look at the dollar peso sell. Now, all these things dropped, right? All these things dropped on the trend lines. I had a trend line like right under here, I think, and these dropped. And so that would have been a valid entry because we had class A, we had a sell bubble, we had a trend line break. You could have sold that and targeted these pivots down here. It did not make it. It started to trend higher again. This hasn't necessarily stopped out for you if you did that, but it is out of the money. When I was looking at these yesterday morning, they'd already gone far, far, far beyond my pip threshold. So I was looking and it had already gone down here, for example, which would mean I would have to have a 379 pip stop to get into it. So I held off. I said, that's just gone too far. That's either a missed opportunity or I'm going to catch it when it retraces. It has retraced, but I need to see a lot more before I'm willing to get into this. I haven't traded it yet. I did have a sell bubble here. I do have a class A zone it's returned to. On a trend line break, I could trade this and target the pivots down here. But I don't know. If it trends higher, if it breaks this high, then it's trending again, and then I might want to see a whole new setup and see more things happen. But I think that, you know, we'd want to take trades, but we want to be cautious too. We don't want to get passionate or emotional and start taking trades because we think we have to. You don't have to do anything, but you want to take opportunities that look like the good trades that you've taken in the past. And if you have any questions about what that looks like, go back to the Signals blog and look at the winning trades and look at the setup posts and what they look like, what those charts look like, and then look at your own back testing and look at or your own trades and what the charts looked like when you had a winning trade. And that gives you a good reference point mentally, visually, so that you can remember if you start to get kind of blinded by trying to get into a trade or worried about the next trade. Think about the past trades, look at the past trades, and that'll give you a good clue as to what you should be waiting to see before you take a risk. So anyway, that's not open yet from me. I haven't sent a signal on it, but it may be setting up soon, like in the next 24 to 48 hours. Dollar CAD sell, same deal. When I looked at this had gone too far. And it actually hadn't gone far enough. I mean, I drew a trend line here and it hadn't gotten back to it. It had dropped, had produced a sell bubble here. You could have gotten into it, drawn a trend line under here and sold it, but it didn't do that. It's actually made a higher high. It's trending again. So these dollar pairs are trending again. I'm sticking with this trend line I drew under price here. And I'm going to have to wait for a whole new setup. So one of these supply zones up here may go Class A. I don't think, this one is already Class A. They're both already Class A. So if it returns to here, and then we get other setup signal elements, then that might be the time to sell it. I totally believe it could set up on either of these supply zones and create a sell trade, and then we target the monthly and the weekly pivots below. But we're still waiting for this trade to set up. It's not done trending yet. So keep your powder dry, and we'll try when it's at a better time. Give it a little bit more time to get exhausted, to get ready to get the bulls ready to give up and capitulate to the bears and collapse a little bit. But we're not quite there yet. Let's see, Euro Aussie. That is another pair that looks just like the other ones. It broke down. We did have a nice tight little trend line that was broken. We had sell divergence, sell bubble, trend line break. Perfectly valid trade to get into. It hasn't gone to target. It also hasn't stopped out. It's like the dollar peso. So it may move up. It may hit this stop. It may drop and go to these targets. I didn't send it as a signal because it had gone way too far by the time I saw it. So I thought I have to wait or just accept that this wasn't a trade I was able to get into. And that just happens. I don't watch the chart 24 hours a day. I don't expect anybody would. To me, it's just exhausting and mind. I mean, it's soul killing. So I'd rather look at the charts every few hours when things set up, and I see them, take them, and then let them play out. And that works pretty well for me. Okay, so I drew the trend line. And if it breaks below that and I have like a new sell bubble and maybe a new zone, I might be willing to trade that. I haven't traded this yet, so that'd be a first trade for me. And it's already attempted once and then risen again, especially if it can't make a higher high and then it drops. That's a real sign of weakness. So then I'd be really interested in getting into it and targeting this weekly pivot and this monthly pivot below if the risk to reward ratio is good enough. So that's still on my radar. I'm still excited about that, but we haven't gotten into that yet. And see, New Z dollar buy, that's the last one. This also, it rose up. We had a nice little trend line here. It broke out of that, and it's fallen again. It may make a lower low along with all the other dollar pairs. I didn't trade this. Again, it had gone too far. I also didn't like the look of it. I didn't see a lot of upside in terms of, places to set targets and whatnot. So I was thinking of just not taking it at all. If this makes lower lows, if it goes down to this monthly pivot and it sets up an entry down here somewhere, then that's going to be really interesting to me. So I'll be looking for that to happen. And for now, I've just drawn this trend line above kind of the price action, and we'll see where that leads us. But this is also something we're still watching. Not in that yet. Down below, we have our New Zealand sell. That's been open since last week. This is still open. I haven't had any reversal, any closure signal, any kind of early exit signal on this. We have a Class B demand zone that appeared here, but it's not Class A, so I don't close it. I only would accept a close signal if it's a Class A demand zone, and it's not. We did have a buy ball down here, and things kind of moved upwards, but it looks like they're heavy and they're wanting to drop again. We may yet get to our monthly pivot target and our final profit target down below. So for now, this is open and I'm holding on to it. No change. And euro pound buy, I did close this yesterday. I saw all these things happening on the chart with all these drops happening, all these trades setting up. So I looked at our euro pound, and we also had a class A supply zone appear, and that is a early closure signal. So I thought, well, rather than see this collapse, because remember, I didn't know this was going to happen. Let's go ahead and let's take our money off the table because we don't have our stop to break even yet, and there's profit on the table. So I took 50 pips of stop, 50 something pips of profit off the table, and took profit on this, and set a close signal to y'all so you could also get out of it. It does look like it's continuing, and it's going to go towards its planned profit targets, and that's great. Pound Swiss, same thing. We got out of this at the end of last week, same reason, a valid reversal signal. And again, we don't know what's going to happen on the right side of the chart, so that was a good decision at the time. I don't regret it at all. We took profit. It was a profitable trade. We didn't lose money, and that's a good day. But both of these are continuing to move further along towards the initial planned profit targets that we had in place. So the euro pound now, that's closed. That's a win. And I think it was like 58 pips or something. I'm just going to put what I had when I got out, because I think that's probably the most conservative thing. If I go to my FX book and I look at the euro pound, yeah, 52 pips. That's what I took on that when I closed it, and that was exactly the time when I sent y'all an email. So we'll go with that. Our official closing pip. So we're still up for the week. We had a lot of stuff that closed last week that I recorded here. There's still opportunity to make money, but these things weren't ready to go yet, obviously. They still want to trend. They're still moving. New Zealand yen could be profitable. That could still work out. Aussie dollar might stop out, but on all these trades, there are retrades, except for maybe the pound Aussie. But there might even be on that if it ends up retracing and going higher after all. I think it's time, we just need to sit tight for another 24 to 48 hours and let price evolve, let these trends exhaust themselves, and start to give us additional sell signals like triangular moving average color change, new class A supply zones or demand zones if it's a buy trade, and just let those things happen. And when they happen, then we'll take our time and we'll get all the confirmation we need, and then we'll take another trade. But yeah, just don't. Once you have a series of wins, don't come into the market hot the next week and start taking tons of trades thinking that you solved the puzzle and you're gonna be on a permanent winning streak, because that really never works out very well. And I kind of expected we'd have a rough start to this week after a really great week, a really great couple weeks actually. We've done really well for the last 3 weeks. So, but we trade on rules, not on feelings. And when a trade sets up, I will take it. And when a trade stops out, I will use our retrade rules and just get more strict about the conditions I'm willing to accept for taking another risk on a currency pair and taking a trade. So that's all I have for now. Let's just make sure we don't have any questions in the chat room before we sign off. And I think I'm all alone at the moment. So if you have any questions, please send me an email, or as I said earlier, use a private messaging, or go to the trading room group and post. And or you can send me an email at ezfxsignal@gmail.com. I'm always happy to hear from you, happy to answer your questions. And I'll see you tomorrow at the trading room, same time, same place. Bye-bye.